Ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing today? Back at it again, another tier list. This time, the sequel to the original monster tier list. This is the monster difficulty tier list. So now, everyone who was like, yo, how hard are these monsters? Or like, why aren't you talking about how hard they are? Well, now I am. We're not doing nothing but talking about hardness. In not a weird way. Anyways, guys, this tier list is entirely subjective, just so you know. What I think are hard fights might be easy to you guys. We all have varying play styles, so maybe, you know, what I think is an easy fight is really hard to you. Totally subjective. I've played this game a lot, currently in about 1,000 Legend. So I'm not trying to flex, but what I am saying is that, like, if you're brand new to the game, fights that might be really hard for you might be really easy for me, or, you know, people who are better than me might be like, hey, that fight's really easy, Wolf. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's subjective. This is just my take on it. Let's explain the tiers. So, Wolf tier. It's very challenging to beat. It either takes an extremely strong or specific build to beat. It's tough, just like me. Guys, this is a joke. I just thought it'd be funny to put my name as the top tier. And just kind of act like jokingly arrogant about it. Now, I am going to leave it because I think it's funny, but I did that more for the memes than anything. And then the rest of the tiers are kind of, you know, explanatory, like challenging. It's not like broken, but you need like a good board to be able to contest it. Fair is like, it's not a cakewalk, but you need, you know, a little less than you would for challenging. A weak board is pretty self-explanatory. It means it's a weak board. Means like, you don't need much to beat it. Like, you can't get away with nothing, like literally nothing, but it doesn't take a lot. And then AFK means you can literally AFK your way through it. And so let's get into it. First things first, I want to say, I don't play Mac at all. Okay? Like, not that I have anything against him, it's just, character doesn't really resonate with me, at least not right now. So I don't play Mac at all. So, some of these encounters that are going to be in the AFK tier, Mac will lose. Okay? But I'm going to ignore that. And those encounters are Dire Inglet, Kyver Drone. Everything else should be about the same, but I'm just saying, just so you guys know. Dire Inglet, I'm putting in AFK tier. Now, this is a little controversial, okay? And the reason why is you can technically lose to Dire Inglet. He has 2 fangs, and he also has a skill that makes it so they have 5% chance to crit. If he crits you enough, you will lose. The odds of that happening are extremely low. Extremely low. I've never had it happen to me. I've never seen it happen to anybody. I could be wrong, but the odds are so low that I'm willing to put this in AFK even if you can lose. Does that seem fair? Also, guys, as a side note, I put a lot of effort in these videos. If you guys like this video, please drop a like and subscribe below. Let me know your thoughts on the tier list. Also, I want to give a shout out. I've seen other people doing tier lists. One of them is, it's either Thomnol or Thom NLE. I think he's doing a really good job on the tier list he's putting out, so I'm actually going to drop a link to his channel in the description. He didn't ask me to plug him at all. Thomnol, Thom NLE, whatever. If you're listening to this and you want me to remove the link or not shout you out in the future, just let me know. Anyways, also shout out to the maker of this tier list, Rodrigo BSL, because this is a great tier list and I've used it now for 2 videos. Anyways, Kyver Drone. Kyver Drone's also AFK. The only way you can lose to Kyver Drone, if you're not Mac, is if you put out an item on your board that is like objectively not helping your board, objectively bad. Because then he can slow it and his skill will give him damage on a weapon every time he slows. So the only way to lose to Kyver Drone is actually putting anything out against him. That doesn't mean, like, if you run a really strong or semi-strong board, like, you'll kill him, right? But just kind of funny that you can lose to him, but only, like, by trying. But, again, like, it's not like any board you put out is going to lose to him. It's only very weak boards that don't help you, and then it gives him an item to slow. Viper. Viper is fair. Now, Viper is definitely the strongest day 1 enemy. It's the only one that can actively kill you, pretty much on any hero. Basically, as long as you have a couple okay-ish items or like 1 decent item, like, you don't need much to beat him. He only has 75 health. You either need like some decent healing, a little bit of damage. You know, if you can deal 75 damage in like 24 seconds, don't quote me on that, but I believe that's about what it takes to kill him before he kills you, you're fine. So, like, he loses to 1 double barrels, Vanessa, that kind of thing. So he's fair. Like, you can't get away with running like any old combination of items on him, but, you know, it doesn't take a lot either. Bananabal also AFK, very low health. All they do is shield and heal, and just because their health is so low, when it comes time to Sandstorm, you will beat out Bananabal every time. Lighter doesn't do enough burn, way less health than you, AFK. Kimono, just does a little bit of shield, way less health than you can go AFK on it. Coconut Crab. Coconut Crab, it shields a fair bit. It can shield a fair bit. However, it doesn't do that much damage, and I haven't really, as far as I can recall, like ever lost to Coconut Crab. That would be pretty tough. And he's like an early day 2, good fight to take. Pretty weak. Not often am I ever going to be like, oh, I can't beat Coconut Crab. Again, I don't think I've ever lost to him. I don't even know if he can beat you. Doesn't take a lot. This guy, little Mosquito, AFK. Mosquito has very little damage. Okay, Mosquito basically does 0 damage to you. All it does is deal damage when it slows, and it does like 8 damage every time. It starts at 200 health. You can beat this just straight up, as far as I'm aware. Like, unless you're somehow really behind, maybe you're still level 1 because you lost your day 1 fight somehow. If you have like 400 HP, 300 HP, like whatever you're gonna have at level 2, you beat, Mosquito no problem. Covetous Thief, I think, is fair. I wouldn't say weak, because I feel like you do kind of have to kill him. I could be wrong on this. I'm like definitely not 100% sure on every single fight here, but I think like you do have to try a little bit to kill him, or at least try like to not like lose. But it's not hard. Like, it's definitely an easier fight, I think, in my mind than like Viper, but I didn't feel quite right putting it on a weak board. You get to scale a fair bit, and it can be a little scary, but that is also off the top of my head, kind of knowing that. Yeah, he has 400 health, and he has a scaling weapon, so he can be a little dicey. Like, you can't just run nothing against him, but I don't think you need much to beat him. In terms of, like, being in the fair tier, he's more on the weak board side of the fair tier, if that makes sense. Boarrior is challenging. Boarrior is very, very tough, and the reason is because of Lumbors, and Lumbors now is a very strong early game item. I almost put him in the Wolf tier, then I think I backtracked a bit on it, just because, like, his health isn't super high, but it's a very dangerous fight that he can do a lot of damage, and I'm more scared of him than Rogue Scrapper, especially if you don't have like a bunch of one-shot burst or whatever, just because he can really stack up his damage quickly and hit you very, very hard. Like, if you can't kill him in 20 seconds, he might kill you. Day 2 Rogue Scrapper, I think, is fair. It's like hard but fair. Like, I debated putting it in challenging. Rogue Scrapper is going to do a lot of healing, a lot of shield, and it has like very high health, but it doesn't do a lot of damage to you. So you can either like totally out shield it, you can also totally out weapon it. It's difficult, but I think it is fair. I wouldn't say like you need a crazy board to beat Rogue Scrapper. There's very few times for me personally where I say, oh, I can't beat Rogue Scrapper. And it can be a little challenging. Like, it's a lot of damage, and you either need to have like a shield plan for it, like a damage plan for it, or a little bit of both. Flamedancer. I think Flamedancer isn't that hard to beat. I don't think it takes a lot. Doesn't put out that much damage, doesn't have any defensive utility. Pretty easy fight. Dabbling Apprentice. Now, Dabbling Apprentice, I actually have had it be moderately scary a couple times when I take like Mountain Pass event and I get it on day 2. It does more damage than I expect. On day 3, especially if you're level 3, which you should be, it's gonna be just fine. Doesn't do that much damage at all. I don't even think it has enough to kill you. Maybe it does, but yeah, I don't think it has enough to kill you. It's just not that bad. Froststreet Challenger, also weak. Doesn't put out a lot of damage, doesn't really have sustain. Super, super beatable. By day 3, Rogue Scrapper should be weak compared to this one. By day 3, again, you should be level 3, so you should have more health, 2 more board slots, 2 more items to beat Rogue Scrapper. It should be totally fair and beatable, and shouldn't require any extra hoops or anything. Same with Street Gamer. It's not that hard. He has a little bit of heal, but it's nothing you're really that scared of. Has a little bit of damage, but nothing you're really that scared of. Very, very takeable, very beatable. Bike. Bike is challenging. Bike is really challenging. So Bike is tough because he can do a lot of damage very quickly. He has a lot of small weapons that go off very fast, and he also has weapon scaling. So it's pretty scary fight, honestly, and he could definitely kill you. Good ways to beat him are just like be ahead of his health total, especially on like Pygmalion. You can out health him depending on kind of what skills you get and stuff. Beyond that, like, you either need to out damage him or just have like a really good health and shielding plan, because he does scale, but he falls off a lot really towards the later stages of the fight when he runs out of ammo and everything on his Uzi and his bolos. It's challenging, but it's beatable, right? And it can be a little scary, but if you have like a really strong build, most of the time you're gonna be fine against this guy. He just always scares me a little bit. Etherwright is very easy, which is crazy. This is like one of the most important fights in the game that you should always take. The only thing this loses to, if you have like literally no damage, or all of your damage is poison, otherwise you can't lose, because their entire damage plan is based off of shield and like stacking a bunch of shield. And then they have an item called Force Field, which does damage equal to your shield. If you can break their shield, you can do it with like 2 bad weapons, or like a mid-burn build, anything, like if you can just consistently remove whatever shielding they have, you are not worried at all about this fight. This fight is not hard at all. Boilerroom Brawler doesn't really do that much. It's not that scary. Doesn't have a lot of threatening. I don't even think it has an offensive item off the top of my head. Pretty sure it just shields at you. Honestly, I didn't run the math on this one. This one might actually be like AFK. Well, to be fair, depending on how high your health is, theoretically every fight in the game is AFK, I believe. Death Reaper, I think, actually beats you. But basically, if your health is high enough, almost every fight in the game is AFK. Boilerroom is on that cusp, though, where it doesn't do anything threatening at all. Dervish. Dervish is another weak board. It's a little more challenging than Boilerroom, I would say, but I don't think it's anything you need to be worried about. If you have even like just a couple weapons, it should out damage it. It doesn't have that much damage. It has 4 weapons that deal damage, but they're all pretty slow. Not super worried about fighting it ever. Don't think I've ever lost. Retiree also doesn't take that much. Even though they have golf club scaling and healing, I think it's just not enough to be scary. I would say it's still a little harder than Dervish and Boilerroom. I wouldn't say it's hard enough to be in the fair tier because it's just not all that threatening. Bloodreef goes in the same spot. It's starting, like, we're starting to get to that point where monsters will start having more and more threatening elements, but maybe not like enough to piece it all together. Bloodreef is not that threatening, to be honest. It has a crow's nest, it can heal, it has invulnerability potion, but it just doesn't really put that much damage towards you. And it does have some sustain, but it's not like a whole lot. It's nothing really that scary. Flame Juggler. Flame Juggler I'm going to put in challenging, but it is doable. The thing with Flame Juggler, if you don't have any shield items or like a good way to do a lot of healing, Flame Juggler is very scary. Like if you're playing a all weapons Vanessa build, for example, don't have a good way to address Flame Juggler unless you do crazy ridiculous burst. If you have any shield item, even something small, you can really break up Juggler's burn just because like shielding is such a good counter to burn. And if you have like decent shielding though, this fight becomes either like fair, it could even be really weak. I mean, I think all fights can be really weak in the right circumstances, but it's challenging, and I think oftentimes it can be hard just to like ensure you have that kind of shielding protection, but it's doable. Ahexa. I think Ahexa's try a little. I think Ahexa can kill you if your board is truly terrible. Like, she does get some good regen, she can't put poison on you. I have had some bad runs where I've had very close calls of Ahexa, but I've never lost to Ahexa. Like, I think you really have to be doing a lot wrong to be losing to Ahexa, in my opinion. Very beatable with even just, like, low, medium strength boards. And then, like, any strong board will just crush her. This guy, Hellbilly. Hellbilly is actually a little more challenging. I've had very weak boards that have gotten smacked by Hellbilly, so that felt bad. In that regard, he just has he's decent damage scaling, decent healing. For that metric, I'm going to put him in fair. Still not the most challenging fight, but, like, you can't just throw nothing at him and expect to win, or throw very little at him and expect to win. The Prince is very challenging. So the Prince is very beatable, but you kind of need, you're almost like you need a certain type of build. Like you either need something like Burn or Poison is very effective against him. If you are running something like Dually, the Prince can be very challenging just because they have electric eels, which will charge every time you use an item and then deal damage to you, but also every time they slow, they'll like scale a weapon damage for the fight. If you have a bunch of small items like going off like crazy, the Prince can be a really tough fight. But either if you have like bigger, slower items, you know, whatever, like long cooldown items, or you just have like a lot of burn, it's very takeable, but it is challenging. Like, doesn't heal, can absolutely test you, it has a ton of health, and is definitely able to kill you. Preening Duelist is fair, I think. It can start to get a little scary if you're a little slow, like slow to start your fights, or if you just like have low health or something, or behind a couple levels, just because like the ult talk skill can do a lot of damage, and I think if he gets like 2 rounds of ult talk damage on you, it could be pretty scary. But for the most part, it should be beatable. I don't think it's like such a gimme, but I think it is like on the easier side of fair, but it's like not weak enough where I felt comfortable giving it weak board status. Sabretooth, weak board. It's not putting out a lot of damage because most of its board is just pelt. So, you know, Shiny Fangs can hit a little hard, but ultimately, if you're putting together even a semi-decent board, should not be a problem at all. Even a weak board should not be a problem at all. It doesn't put out that much damage because 8 of the 10 items they have on board are useless. Infernal Envoy. Envoy, I believe, this one I'm very willing to admit I could be wrong on. Just because I can't remember the last time I picked Envoy as a fight, but I looked at its kind of Wikipedia entry page and I saw that like the items it has aren't incredibly impressive to me. And so I thought that it might heal a lot, but it's not putting out a lot of damage. And I think that the healing that it puts out is very manageable by low amounts of damage. Day 5 Flame Juggler should be a little better. Again, if you're behind on levels or something like that, you can't necessarily expect to roll up to Flame Juggler, or if you have the same problems you had the last day. But the thing is, between like day 4, day 5, you've had the ability to get better items, you've had the ability to get, more XP from level up, stuff like that. So for that reason, I think Flame Juggler becomes a little more fair. You still can't just like roll up to it with nothing, but it's fair. Like it's probably fair, leaning towards weak. Rocket Trooper's a gimme. I think if you have any sustain, you're fine. You can totally just out damage this guy. He only has 2 big like shots of rocket launcher that go off and deal damage, and they're not going to do that much damage. You might lose a good chunk of your health bar, but even if he crits on both of them, you should live. At that point, he's out of damage. Kyver Commander should be also very beatable. No sustain, very low damage, very approachable. Just basically, I believe it just has a bunch of bees. Has a bunch of bees and a junkyard lance. It's not that much damage, it's coming at you. Mod Squad. Yeah, Mod Squad, you don't have to be super competent, but you do have to have something. Just because Mod Squad scales with Bulldozer, has a little bit of healing with First Aid in. I'm not saying like you need to kill him instantly, and you can also totally out shield this fight, like totally out heal it. You can't do nothing, like, because it is a scaling fight. Again, maybe towards the weaker side of fair. Gorgon, I don't think Gorgon is like good enough to be challenging. It can be strong. Petrifying Gaze is a tough skill, puts a lot of poison on you. Like, you definitely can't pull up with nothing. I have lost to Gorgon before. I don't think it's, like, in the same tier as, like, Prince, where Prince can just wreck you. Like, Gorgon doesn't wreck you in that same way. I think it's on the stronger side of fair, but I don't think it's just, like, again, like, Petrifying Gaze. But it's, like, it's very doable most of the time, and unless you're very, very weak is the only time you can't really do it. Trashtown Mayor. Mayor is weak. Doesn't really threaten you. Doesn't have a lot to threaten you with. Very bad items. I mean, his skills... I'm pretty sure when you're fighting him, they start at 1, so it's like his skills don't really boost him in combat, and then just none of his items are good. Like, he has a silver tier dog, he has whatever that, like, bunker thing is. It's just bad. Scoville's fair, maybe on the harder side of fair. He's kind of like a damage check. Basically, you need to kill him or get him really close to dead before he puts a ton of burn on you, but all his burn items are pretty slow. None of them are super threatening. He doesn't put out, like, a ridiculous amount of burn super fast. So, I think he's very fair, and you should take him for the XP, but he's also very doable. Like, again, he's torch challenging, not quite in that same tier. You need to be able to kill him before he kills you, but it's not that hard. It's not, like, impossible. If you can kill someone, if you do, like, 1400 damage, like, 14 seconds, whatever, something like that, you're fine. Like, you can totally outburn this guy, you can totally outpoison him, totally outweapons damage him. Inglet is a weak board, doesn't need a whole lot. I mean, they do have some decent damage, but the shackles they have on board isn't going to scale them much. It's not really that threatening. Zookeeper, same thing. Zookeeper kind of just has a hodgepodge of items. It doesn't really get a lot of damage to stick. It's because it's like, it's trying to do too much stuff. Like, it has Crook, it has just like Salamander Pup, it has the Zookeeper skill. So it's like, it's applying weak amounts of like burn, damage, and poison, and not like concentrating on any of those. Not that good. Don't need much to beat it. Another Mosquito. Okay, I'm pretty sure, I'm not as confident on this one being AFK. I'm pretty sure it is though. Especially, it has 900 health. If you have like 1100 health, I think you can just take out the Sandstorm. I could be wrong though. I'm pretty sure it doesn't do much damage. It has like, it has Proboscis, which is damage whenever you slow. It also has that other, like, I think it's Stinger, the one that damages and slows. And those are fine. It's a lot of bad damage. And it's very slow. It's bad. Like, it just doesn't do any damage. Trash Golem. I don't know if Trash Golem can actually kill you. I could be wrong, but I think just... It has a bunch of ammo items, has Powder Keg, which can do up to 40% of your health. I don't know if it can kill you. Like, I don't know if it can do 60% with its other items. Maybe it can, just because it puts on a decent chunk of burn, a decent chunk of poison, but Trash Golem isn't that scary. You can very easily outdamage this guy, or just, any defensive tools and you'll be fine. Foreman as well. He does have Crane, and Crane is a little bit scary if it scales, but he just scales so slowly with things like Forklift and stuff. Like, his Crane is so slow. I don't think he's a threat. Enclave is in the fair tier, and the reason is, it's just Enclave can put up some decent poison. Enclave can also put up some decent sustain with regen and stuff, so it's not insane, but it is fair. I've definitely lost to Enclave thinking like, okay, I'm weak, but I could take Enclave, right? I could not take Enclave. So, Enclave, definitely something to be wary of, but not unbeatable. Loan Shark is very challenging. Now, is he beatable? Fair, yes. But he could just put out a lot of damage and he has a lot of health. You know, Cash Cannon can hit really hard. He has 2 Shark Claws, so the later you go into the fight, the more he scales, and he can scale a fair bit. Definitely one of those fights where, you know, I've definitely been killed by him, and he can kill you pretty quickly. Most of the time, I don't have a huge problem taking this guy later days, but like I get killed by him enough where I was like, oh shit, like I have a little bit of respect for Shark here. Infernal, same thing. Infernal kind of is just like Scovyle, where it's like, Infernal doesn't do a lot of damage or anything until he does, you know, which it'll be delayed in the fight. Like basically, the second time Infernal Greatsword goes off is when I start getting scared, and she starts putting ridiculous burn on me. But until then, not that scary. Like challenging, but you know, for the first bit of the fight, if you have slows, if you have freeze, if you have really good damage, really good burn, not scary at all. Which is the first one that belongs in the Wolf tier. Yay me. I still don't know how the fuck you beat this guy, to be honest. I've had very few builds beat him. He's very strong. Honestly, yeah, he's just so tough. Like, you need a very specific kind of build. He puts on so much poison, he freezes the shit out of you, also has a bunch of sustain with regen, just because of Necronomicon, basically. All very tough. Just a lot of poison, a lot of slow and freeze, and a lot of regen. Viper Tyrant. Viper Tyrant's fair. I've gone into Viper Tyrant before and been like, oh, Viper Tyrant's super weak, and then gotten my shit rocked. The problem with Viper Tyrant is that just, he has poison and regen, so it's like, he has some decent damage and he has some decent sustain. Sergeant Suds is super weak. Doesn't really threaten anything, doesn't have anything that like scales super crazily. Just a very weak fight, very doable. Cosmic Rock. This is one where I didn't do the math on it, but I was wondering, why can't I throw this Cosmic Rock in there too? I didn't do the math on it, but basically you can like damn near just take this thing to Sandstorm and survive. Puts out very little damage, puts out very minimal shielding, and it's just like, it's just not a tough fight. Even with like the weakest boards, I would feel good against Cosmic Rock. Joyful Jack, pretty similar. Just not super threatening. Like it does have Poppy Field, but it doesn't have like a whole lot of weapons to go along with it. And it's just not that scary and never will be. Thug is fair. I've definitely lost a Thug before. Anchor is a big reason for that. Also, he just has a lot of weapons coming at you. He has a fair bit of poison. Plus his skill Bonk is a little scary. For the most part, it is doable, but I've definitely gone into Thug and being like, oh, I could beat Thug, right? No. It does take like a weaker board, but maybe on like the weaker side of fair, but I have lost a Thug and he is something to be wary of a little bit. Ghost Pepper. Ghost Pepper's strong, dude. Ghost Pepper's strong. I don't know why he's like a silver fight and Scovyle is like a legendary fight, whatever. Ghost Pepper is like Scovyle, but he also, every time he burns you, he gains like 6 regen. So that's kind of degenerate. So like, he has a shit ton of burn damage, but also just a crap ton of healing to go along with it. So he's really challenging and can be like a very, I'm usually too scared to take Scovyle, honestly. Unless I have like a very good burn build or like just a very good like one-shotty weapons build. A lot of damage, a lot of sustain. Shock Trooper, fair. Like, Shock Trooper is one of those ones where it's not horribly weak. Like if you let the fight go on too long, he can get out of hand a little bit and he can absolutely one-shot you if his rifle that he's holding in his hand there. If you let it get out of hand too much. It's like the second rifle cast usually. Usually you can beat him before that, but just something to be wary of. Chili Charles, again, if you have a very slow build or like very few items, like you're playing like, you know, I guess like a Pygmalion and you have like 5 items on board and you're not doing a lot of damage. I have lost the Chili Charles before. He puts out a lot of shield on himself. He also heals himself for a little bit. He can like freeze you just to stop whatever you're doing. Not horrifically difficult. If you put anything like poison or burn on him, super easy. Just because even if you're frozen, that damage is still going off. You can absolutely beat him with some good weapons as well. Treasure Turtle is pretty similar to Charles. It's kind of just like, they can put out a ridiculous amount of healing and shield. So if your damage like falls off, if you have like ammo items or something, or you just don't have a lot of damage to begin with, Turtle can out shield you and out heal you, take you to Sandstorm and you'll lose. So I've lost the Turtle that way before. Feels really bad. Radiant Corsair is challenging. The biggest problem about Radiant Corsair is you need like consistent damage. You need to be able to put out, you know, 6,000 damage plus. The biggest problem is just Anchor. If you get unlucky, Anchor can crit you twice and you can lose. There's also the Spyglass, which can like totally slow you down. In terms of damage, like a lot of the times I'll take Radiant Corsair to the Sandstorm, but you gotta really be able to out damage the Corsair. Or it's like you gotta be able to like take it down by Sandstorm time. Definitely helps if you have like decent shielding. just because of things like Anchor can do like half your health basically, or 40% of your health if it crits. So yeah, Frigate, it's fair. Again, any burn thing can be a little scary. Like, you can't just do nothing against it. Like, you do have to be a little bit proactive and kind of take the fight to it, but it's not that scary. So, willing to put it in fair. I've never been super scared by race car. It doesn't scale a whole lot, and all they do is hit you with a race car all over, like over and over again. Not anything I'm super scared of, though. Oasis Guardian on day 8 is I don't know. I kind of struggled between putting this one in fair or weak. Has a lot of regen, and it does have scaling and femur. I think if you're not putting a lot of damage out, and like maybe your shielding isn't the best either, maybe I'll put him in weak. I think I'll put him in weak, but you can lose to him if you are on the weaker side and just can't do a lot of damage, or you just don't have a lot of sustain as well. Usually you would need bad damage and bad sustain, and then femur would like attack you, and then he'd heal off everything you do. But it's not that bad. I think it's Dr. Vortex, this guy sitting on top of the cloud. He's pretty weak. He can scale, and he does have that item that, like, when an item is used by any person, this gains attack and shield for the fight, which is reasonable. It's like a fine item. It's nothing I'm really scared of. Bouncertron can be scary. It just, a lot of weapons, a lot of damage, so it can kind of burst you down if you let it, if you, like, can't kill it fast enough. I've had some close calls and some losses to Bouncertron, but it's definitely not super strong, but you just gotta be a little wary that it can kind of take that fight to you. Wandering Shoal, same thing. Wandering Shoal is another one of those ones where it's like, it can just poison you down if you don't have a good enough build and just kind of out-sustain you. Fair fight. Burninator Bot, it's pretty weak. I feel like Burninator Bot is, you know, it's a burn enemy, but it doesn't really put a lot of burn on you. There's something I'm super scared of with Burninator Bot. Yeah, Burninator Bot does have scaling, technically, but it is like, it's not good. It's not really that impressive. I think it's nothing to be really scared of. Dragon is more, I feel like, kind of like Radiant, because Corsair, more of like a health check than anything. Like, can you burst through this thing's health? Obviously, eventually, it'll start putting out ridiculous fire damage on you with its claws and stuff, but it's more about how quickly can I just deal, you know, 3,500 damage or whatever, which can be challenging, especially because it does regen 20 every second, but I think for the most part it's pretty fair and very doable if you have a solid build. Will I get over eager and think I can beat Dragon sometimes when I can't? Yeah, but I think more often than not I'm like, oh, I can beat Dragon. And it is challenging because it will punish you and can kill you pretty quickly if you can't kill it, but you have a lot of setup time on it. You have like a good amount of time before it even does anything to you. Totally takeable. Challenging, but like, let's put Guardian back in there. Bloodreef Captain, he's fair, right? You can't just necessarily expect to just walk up and kind of offer nothing and beat him. He does have a good healing, he does have good damage, but he's very beatable and is takeable. Same with Duelist. Well, do I want to put Duelist in fair? No, I'm gonna put him in weak. I feel like, no, I'll put him in fair. Duelist heals a lot and does a lot of damage, so you gotta be able to, like, again, kind of like Captain, you gotta be able to out-damage his healing, out-damage his damage. I think he's fair. He's not doing an incredible amount of damage or healing. Pharaoh's Khan is fair. Like, maybe challenging. Pharaoh's Khan is kind of like, if you can kill them before their sniper goes off, you're fine. You basically need to deal enough damage to kill them before the sniper goes off, or you need to be able to survive a sniper shot. And if you can survive, or you can kill me before it goes off, you're fine. I've definitely lost to it, and it's not a weak board. Reynad, weak. Doesn't do anything. Just like horrible skills, horrible rewards, horrible items on board. It's very weak. Not anything I'm scared of. I think this is Roaming Island. I think it's fair. I think decent sustain. Heals a lot with things like seaweed, poisons you. It's usually like out healing whatever you're doing as opposed to outright killing you. I mean, the poison can stack up. It's not super scary, but it's kind of scary, so something to be wary of. Weapons platform. Weapons platform is fair. If you don't kill it fast enough, it will just start scaling on you, and it will absolutely just hit you with a big, large item. And it can kill you after like 2 of those, but especially 3, especially with crits too. So something to be wary of. Not the hardest fight ever, but it can kill you. Same with Revenant. Revenant can absolutely kill you if you don't do a lot of damage. Because what can happen, or if you have like ammo, because what can happen is like, I've run out of steam against this fight before, and it'll like regen back at you. And it also poisons. So it has really good poison, it has really good regen. So because of that, like, has both sustainability and damage. It can kind of make a comeback against you, but it's not like terrifying and is beatable for a lot of builds, but you can't just run nothing against it. Reaper, I think Reaper isn't horribly challenging. Basically, you either need to be able to kill it before its scythe goes off, or you need to be able to like basically do enough damage after the scythe goes off to like kill it again, you know, because the scythe will like full heal it basically. This one, very weak board. It can put a lot of burn on you, but it also runs out of steam. Like once it does all its potion stuff, it's kind of out. Athenor's decent damage, but nothing you should be super scared of. Pretty beatable. Boss Harrow, also pretty weak, pretty beatable. Has a lot of weapons, doesn't do a lot of damage. Alchemist has really bad like weapons, abilities, whatever, for a day 10 boss. It's kind of astounding to me. Like a lot of its items are just like silver tier. So it doesn't do a lot of damage, doesn't scale a lot, doesn't really have a lot of sustain. Not super scary. This big boy, I think it's Trash Golem. Also not super scary. Not a lot of high tier items. Low health, gets bursted easily, doesn't put back a lot of damage in return. Property Baron, it depends. So the first time you hit day 10, or maybe like day 11, Property Baron can be really scary. And the reason is, big prop, with his Skyscraper, yeah, it's Skyscraper. Skyscraper, he can just one-shot, like, you could just one-shot you, especially if he crit. So, like, you could be dead in, like, 7 seconds. That's not guaranteed. And also, like, depending on your build, you know, he can do a lot of healing. It's very beatable, especially, like, if you're in day 13, 14, whatever, or 12. You're probably fine, but, like, right at day 10, he can be a little scary, but I think is beatable. Volcus. Volcus deserves a challenging, I think. And Volcus is really strong, and like it's a good amount of freeze, and also has freeze scaling, and also gains a lot of shield. So I've definitely had fights where I felt like I couldn't move, and they just kept out shielding me and took me to Sandstorm and beat me. It's pretty beatable, especially if like when you do have your items go off, they do very strong things, like either a lot of damage or apply a shit ton of burn kind of thing. Very challenging fight. I'm gonna put Froststreet up here. Now there's a caveat, if you have a very high weapon build, it's pretty easy to beat Froststreet. I mean, he can still freeze you, but his scaling isn't too crazy, and then your weapons don't get frozen at the start of combat. Froststreet, if you have a lot of non-weapons, is terrifying, because he has his Blizzard skill, and he'll freeze all your non-weapons at the start of combat, which is horrific, and then the hammer scales really fast. You know, again, as you get later and later in the game, like if day 15, whatever, even if you have like non-weapons, maybe you're fine, but it's just like does a lot of damage, is really scary, especially if you have a lot of non-weapons. Void Golem is probably the hardest in the game. The reason Void Golem is so tough is basically if you have a lot of items, he destroys you because of caltrops. He has 2 sets of caltrops. If you have not a lot of items, and you're like, you know, if you're running like 4 or 5 items, you're probably heavily relying on some of them, and then he just has the chance at the start of combat to just destroy whatever your best item is. It's pretty tough. So I feel like you either kill yourself on caltrops, or you have your best item get destroyed like every time, you know? So Void Golem's really tough for that reason. Octopus, so you can't like absolutely cakewalk this guy. I lost to him once the other week. That is the only time I've ever lost to him. I mean, he has a lot of health, but he just doesn't put out that much damage, doesn't have sustain. Very beatable. Octopus deserves a shout because it's cool, but nothing you're worried about. Awakened District is fair. I've definitely I've gotten too comfortable beating Awakened District, where his Soul of the District item is actually pretty strong. Like if he can survive to 13 seconds, it can go off. You might be cooked, like, especially if you're like a poison build. Everything else he does isn't that strong, but if he gets Soul of the District to go off with a lot of health and your health isn't that high, he can smack you. He can smack you brutally, so just something to be wary of. Arkin is really weak, doesn't do a lot of damage, his skill doesn't give you that much sustain, nothing you're just really worried about. Those Gatling guns start to go off quicker and quicker, but it's not a lot of damage. And so, very beatable, pretty much always. Colossus. Colossus is fair. I don't think Colossus is particularly challenging. Maybe he is. Let's put him in. Alright, let's put him in challenging. The reason Colossus is challenging is because basically 10, you know, like 8 seconds into the fight, he starts destroying all your items, which can be really bad. But honestly, a lot of the times late game, like I can just kill him before he starts destroying my stuff. Like get enough burn on him before he destroys my burn item kind of thing. So definitely not the most OP thing ever. It is kind of degenerate, especially if you let the fight go on, it could be really challenging. But if you can like do a lot of damage or get like a lot of ticks on him early, you're totally fine. Loyalist is pretty easy. he doesn't really scale that hard. He doesn't really offer that much threatening stuff from his board, and then he also makes you stronger because of his crit skill. So, not that threatening. Mimic, I'm gonna give Mimic fair. The reason is Mimic just has a billion fangs, which isn't that scary. The one scary thing could be like if you're going against Mimic and you have one item that is pivotal to your build, when Mimic falls below half health, he'll destroy one of your items. So that could be a little scary, to be honest, but that's by no means like guaranteed to hit your best item. But I think it's worth considering, or like worth knowing that if you have like a one weapon Vanessa or something and you're like, oh, Mimic, and then you drop him below half and he kills your one weapon, then you're just sitting there with like a sad crow's nest while he slowly fangs you to death. He is very weak and like not hard to beat, but I just wanted, he deserves an honorable mention because he could just turn the tides on you like that. Mr. Moo is pretty weak. He has the Tamu guns, but beyond that, they just do crit, they have ammo. It's not a lot of damage at all. Puts a little bit of burn on you, nothing you're too worried about. And even though he gets crit from his skill, nothing you're too worried about. And then Bounty Hunters, I think Bounty Hunters may be fair. Like, Bounty Hunters aren't that strong. They do have the skill where, like, at the start of the encounter, they do 15% of your health to you. Like, beyond that, they kind of have a bunch of underwhelming items. I think they run, like, shackles, which is horrible. Yeah, nothing you're scared of. Pretty straightforward. Alright, guys. Let's zoom back out. Guys, that's the whole tier list. Alright, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Put a lot of thought into these choices, and again, they're all subjective, especially when there's this many choices, and people are bound to be disagreeing, and that's okay. So let me know what your thoughts are, but this is for me, like, what I consider very challenging. Hope you guys are doing well. I will catch you in the next one.